G'day guys, it's Tim here. Hope everyone's having a great week. Looking forward to the weekend ahead. Just out walking the dog at the moment and thought we'd do the reveal for the question that we posed earlier in the week regarding Trump and his impact on the global economy. First and foremost, just before we get stuck into it, just want to say a big thank you to everyone that commented. We had a lot of comments, some pretty spirited stuff as well. And I also had some really great messages actually from some people going into real detail about what they believe the impact of Trump's going to have. So here we are, and I guess pretty much what everyone wants to know is, what are my thoughts and how is it going to play out over the coming, maybe 5 or 10 years. So essentially, here's what's going to happen. Just like all the governments before and all the economic cycles before, the leader of the United States or the president will have very little impact on what's going to happen with the global economy. What is going to happen though is we're entering we're halfway through the first phase of expansion in the cycle called the global land cycle. We'll hit a mid-cycle slowdown around about 2019, which will be triggered by a stock market crash. However, while we'll see a stock market crash, we won't see a crash in the global land cycle. We'll then move into the second phase of expansion with the global land cycle, which will peak in 2026. And to give you some examples of how that's going to play out, think about the periods between 2001 and 2007, just before we led into the GFC. That's what we're going to see between 2020 and 2026. Now, this thing, global land cycle, what am I talking about? Just to kind of finish that off as well, 2026 we'll see another stock market crash, but this time we'll see both a crash in the global land cycle as well as the stock market. And we'll enter another 4-year recessionary period like we have every 16 to 20 years for the past 220 years. Now, what is this thing that I'm talking about, the global land cycle? The global land cycle is the economic cycle that we've seen run throughout the global economy since the year 1800. What triggered the beginning of that cycle was what they call the enclosure of land in the United States. So all the available land in the United States has been distributed or purchased. It became a limited resource and a tradable commodity. And what we've seen every 16 to 20 years, the average is 18.6 since that time, is what we call the global land cycle. Now, one of the things a lot of people often refer to economic cycles running 7 to 10 years. What they're referring to when they're talking about that, though, is stock market cycles and not land cycles. And if you think about it purely from an Australian point of view here, while we have a full capitalised market value in the Australian Stock Exchange of $1.5 trillion, the full capitalised value of the land market here in Australia is 6. So clearly, when you've got 4 times the equity operating in something along those lines, you're going to see a lot more. That's going to have a lot more impact on the market. So that's what's going to happen over the coming, I guess we're talking next 10 years or so. I guess for Trump, what it's going to be is we're going to see a huge expansion in the economy, and he's going to be able to turn around in 4 years' time and say, hey, look what a genius he is. Probably he's going to get voted in, so we'll get a full 8-year term. He'll get out just in time before we hit the 4-year recessionary period, and he'll be able to, for the rest of time, talk about what a economic genius he was, where it really had absolutely nothing to do with him, and really just had more to do with the economic cycles, which is always the case with previous politicians, whether we're talking anywhere in the Western developed world. So that's what's going to happen from here. Once again, you've already started to see signs this year about how the economy's moving. The first half of the expansion phase is often triggered by a lot of uncertainty, which is what we've seen over the past 24 months here in Australia, as well as globally with Brexit, China writing down their currency twice, and of the Greek economic crisis, and then of course we saw what happened with Trump the day he got voted in as well. So, guys, that's what's going to be happening moving forward. You'll be very well. Best thing you can do is be informed by this and utilise it to your own benefit. And if it was, I know what I'm doing, which is basically buying everything I can for the next 5 to 10 years to ride that particular wave. And I think you should be doing the same. But anyway, that's pretty much it from me here, guys. I've got to finish walking the dog. Hope everyone's had a great afternoon. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And keep an eye out for next week when we'll pose another question. If you've got something that you want us to discuss, question that you want asked, what's been working really well for the last couple of weeks is this versus that. please post a comment and we'll discuss that next week. But apart from that, have a great night, guys. See you later.